welcome back to Talking Shoppe with Deming-Rivers Social Club. I'm Emily.
And I'm Essence.
We're back for episode 4.
We're halfway there to our goal. If you're watching this and you see how close we are, it is because we've had several camera and software issues today.
We're working on it.
We've been trying to record this for like 50 minutes, which is mad annoying, but it's okay. We make it through.
Resilience.
Or whatever.
Yeah, we're... Normally there, if you're watching the video version, there is artwork behind us, and it is conveniently just off every angle.
We look like we're like in an institution.
Yeah.
So, it's fine.
It'll be okay.
Okay. So, today, we just got back from acupuncture. We've been doing it as long as we've been doing this podcast, which is weird. Cute.
Kinda cool.
Yeah, that's been our little Monday thing, and we were talking about what we wanted to talk about because things have got closer to the therapeutic hour. We didn't even realize, but I think the first one was like, what?
We were at 23 minutes, and then we went to 47, and then we were up to like 54 or something like that. So we started yapping more.
Also, we added the segment things, and the first one was about us, and the other ones were about content, and we're not really good at talking about ourselves, like, on the spot.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why.
Yeah. So today, we have
Before
segment.
We can give them a preview.
A little taste of what we're going to be talking about self-care today.
I feel like self-care is one of those topics where people literally roll their eyes when people say that term, but we're going to hopefully deliver a not eye-rolling performance.
Hopefully we're going to change your perspective on self-care.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we get into our game?
Okay, so if you're new here, we start with a segment where we each get 3 people, and you have to choose who you would make your work wife, your work nemesis, and your work overlord. Okay, well, I'm looking at our wall. We have... This is Winnie the Pooh.
Okay.
We have Eeyore, Tigger, and Rabbit.
Okay. I think Rabbit is going to be my nemesis.
Say more.
I think Rabbit's a know-it-all. I think Rabbit is high-key condescending.
What are Rabbit's pronouns?
He, him.
Okay, so he is like that grumpy old man. Get off my lawn is what I remember.
Yeah. I think Rabbit is giving does not play well with others.
Yeah, I agree.
So I think Rabbit would become my nemesis. I think Eeyore... This is where I'm caught. I have 2 schools of thinking.
Carry on.
Okay. I think Eeyore as like my work overlord or my boss would be an absent boss, but not in a way that's bad.
Depends on what your job is.
Yeah, I think it...
Because Eeyore's depressed.
Yes. I'm pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah.
I don't know if I need an uber-present boss, but I think it would be noticeable that Eeyore wasn't around.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Work wife, I would feel like Eeyore needs a little bright spot. A little somebody to keep him regulated.
You're good at that.
I've proven that I'm pretty decent at that.
Yeah. You have a track record.
I think Tigger would be a good work wife. Because we choose interactions, we'd have a good time. He brings good vibes. I'd rather have somebody high energy be my work wife than my boss.
Wild. I would be totally different.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like Tigger has a lot of ideas. And that's the kind of leader I feel energized by. If they're super excited, have ideas ready to go, then that motivates me. I think Eeyore, at times, we're going to be tired, not going to be feeling this, and that's fine, but I don't really feel like Eeyore would give me the groundedness that I would want. I would want Rabbit as my work wife.
Okay.
To say, this is the policy, and I think that Rabbit would ground Tigger. To say, hey, okay, like, yeah, you have all these big ideas, but this is the budget.
Yeah.
I feel like Eeyore could be really good at making things accessible and accommodating. Like, okay, well, what about these people? What about those people? Like,
yeah.
Like, what about person?
Word. Not you answering your own question?
I know.
Okay. I have my 3. So, Hamilton.
Oh.
Peggy, Angelica, Eliza. Give me the Schuyler sisters.
Okay, this is hard because we don't... Who is Peggy?
Build your own character.
She's just Aunt Peggy, like... Okay, Angelica, this is hard too, because Eliza did great stuff, but where is Hamilton alive or dead?
Alive.
Okay. Then I want Angelica as my work overlord, period. I feel like Angelica has a vision. Angelica is smart. That girl is very selfless because she definitely let her sister steal her man for, like, the sake of the brand or whatever.
Not the brand.
That's kind of what it was.
Yeah.
I would definitely make Angelica work overlord.
Okay.
I'm making Eliza work wife because it does appear that, like, she wants to be a wife. Homegirl wants to be married. She wants to support somebody. She wants to have a family, and that's what you need. And then I guess Aunt Peggy will be, her name is Aunt Peggy.
Aunt Peggy. Not Aunt Peggy.
No, Aunt Peggy.
Okay.
Would be my nemesis.
Wow.
Because I feel like she was really set up. Like, her dad was crushing it, right? Like, he was involved
Philip
somehow.
Schuyler.
Like, he was, what was his job? He was, like, in government.
Idea.
I think so, because he went and he, like, ran against him or whatever.
I think you should give us an entire synopsis of
Yeah,
the
okay,
musical
actually,
Hamilton.
we're not going to talk about self-care. We're just going to
This has become a Hamilton podcast.
Pivoting completely. No, we're niche. We're actually the overlap of musicals and culture and psychology and being gay. That is our brand. No. What was I saying?
You were talking about Philip Schuyler.
Oh, so, like, everybody had done really good things, and she had, like, the world at her disposal. And as far as I know, I've never looked it up. Maybe we should look it up before I talk shit about Peggy. But, like, what did she do? She's just there. And I don't like that.
Well, the musical wasn't about Peggy.
I know, but you said from Hamilton, and in the show, all I saw was her come around the corner and say, "Aunt Peggy," and unfortunately, in a business sense, that is unnecessary. And also, we know you work here. And if I had a coworker that every time we were talking about things was like, "And me," like, it's like the people in the recipe things, where they're like, "This is a recipe for barbecue ribs," and then somebody goes in the comments and they're like, "I'm vegetarian, what about me?" And it's like, it wasn't about you.
Okay. So, final answer.
So, Angelica is work overlord.
Okay.
Eliza, work wife.
Love.
And Peggy, work nemesis.
Okay.
Yeah. That's that. Okay. So, well, let's talk about, this is actually, like, a good intro into what we're talking about. So, like, I don't think that we talk about the impact of hormones enough on, like, productivity and the way that we think about things and, like, emotion regulation and that kind of thing. When the modern workday or whatever was invented, it was really, or, like, came to be, it was really capturing men. Like, everything was set up around that, not really considering, like, people assigned female at birth, like, in mind. We just kind of, like, assimilated then into the already existing framework. And what we know, whether or not you're taking birth control doesn't actually make a difference. But because there are hormones that go along with the XX chromosomal structure or whatever, there are actual fluctuations in emotion regulation, cognitive performance, and, like, impulsivity, as well as sensitivity, all of the things over the course of the month. There are certain weeks that, like, it is easier to do certain parts of your job. And I know that this is a week in my cycle where my brain fog is at its highest and my emotions are, like, my emotional sensitivity is also, like, more. And so I know that I will have a harder time to, like, bring things together and, like, come up with ideas and think things through from point A to point B, and things are more frustrating for me. And I don't think we talk about that a lot. So even if you as an individual identify, like, oh, okay, this is, like, a week that I'm having a hard time, what does that mean at work? Pretty much nothing most of the time.
Yeah. There's often a gap I think for most people, not even just people, you know, the hormone cycles impact, that for most people there is a gap between I know I'm stressed and I know I should be doing something about it and I don't know what to do about it. Self-care is not just I go to the spa once a month.
Although that is nice.
It is not this fix-all thing that I think a lot of people
Well, like, what is the point? Like, when is self-care brought up as a solution?
Well, most of the time, self-care is brought up as a solution when you are already at capacity.
Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if you work at a place and you have events, and you know that week you're going to have 14 events at your venue, then people will say things like, okay, well, make sure you're taking care of yourself, make sure you're practicing self-care, because they know that it's like a higher stress time.
I think self-care is also brought up when there are already scheduled breaks, like for people who get time off around the winter holidays, or teachers who reliably typically aren't working during summer. When there are planned breaks already that have nothing to do with somebody's capacity, a lot of times they're like, well, don't forget self-care, recharge
this weekend,
use it wisely because it's not going to be there forever. There's not self-care slipped in when people are at their breaking point, or there's already a planned break that is not going to interrupt productivity.
It's also brought up when the cracks start showing. I remember working at a place and I needed help. There was a lot going on and I really needed help from my supervisor. I got snippy with her because I had asked for help multiple times and she wasn't giving it. And then I remember having a breakdown in the office, being like, this is too much. The reason that I keep asking for help, the reason that I keep doing this is because I don't know how to handle it and I don't know what else to do. I'm out. And one of the responses that she gave was like, well, are you practicing self-care? It was kind of like a mismatch between what I needed in the work environment and how I was able to do my job. And self-care was offered as if that was the missing piece. So like when you start to feel the impact of your workplace or an organization you volunteer with, sometimes that is offered as like a suggestion, even though that's not super helpful. One of the parts of the way that we think about how to improve organizational capacity is that we need sustainable capacity. So you have to be able to have a capacity to do the work you need to do all the time, not just on Mondays, not just during the first quarter, not just when it's not event season, but all the time. And so knowing your capacity is a really important part of recognizing when you might need to use self-care, because self-care's job is to increase or maintain your capacity. I always think about it as kind of like a scale when we look at what we have to give. And on one side is your stressors and on one side is your supports. Throughout life, there are times where you have a lot of support. If you're on an internship, if you're in elementary school, if you are onboarding to a new job, there's a lot of support. And you're not really carrying the brunt of the stress. So your capacity is good. When you have more supports than stressors, like, you're crushing it. But as things happen and things change over time, we start to add more stressors. And at different points, you have more stressors than you have supports. So you're kind of like in the red. And that's when it starts to chip away at your individual capacity, where you leave your job with less than you came in with. And that's where self-care can help to prevent you being drained by the workplace.
When I teach people about self-care is like driving a car. With driving a car, like, there's predictable wear and tear. We're gonna go places, we're gonna have to put gas in, we have regularly scheduled oil changes, and self-care is a lot like that. It is focusing on maintaining the car, and you go to your oil changes, you check the tires, you pay attention to the gas gauge to make sure you're not riding on empty all the time. It's the things that address predictable stress, the ones that we can plan for, and it focuses on maintaining the quality of the car. If you do the things you're supposed to do, the car will maintain its performance for its life. With self-care, it is something that's predictable, it's built into the routine, it's something that we might have to allocate some time to do, but we know that it's going to pay off. So nobody wants to go take your car for an oil change. You have to pause what you're doing, or you have to budget time to do it. And we know the long-term benefit is worth that time investment into it. I think a lot of people they confuse self-care for coping. Self-care only gets brought out when something bad is happening or when the cracks start to show. Like, that's where coping comes in. Self-care should be happening throughout.
Self-care is proactive, right, and coping is reactive in the presence of a stressor.
Right.
In both situations and both explanations that we've given, the goal is to keep you at zero, balanced. And if you are in a situation where you have a lot of stressors, or you're putting a lot of miles on the car, you're doing all those things, then your self-care has to increase as your stressors increase. So if I'm like, oh, I go for a walk every day, that is my self-care, cool. But if I'm going through a period of time that is like extra crazy, my daily walk may not be enough. I need to look at what is being taken out and what capacity do I need to do my job. And who am I compared to who I need to be when I walk through those doors?
We all have a budget. Like, we all have a capacity. And self-care is about making sure that your capacity is able to address whatever the needs are.
And I think that's almost like a prerequisite to self-care, is like, if you don't know what you're doing, like, a lot of people do self-care day, but if you don't know the goal of self-care, then you don't know if your self-care day is even working. You could just do a face mask and nothing else changes except your skin looks a little bit better. Right. Unfortunately, that will not help you tolerate people that are frustrating tomorrow.
A self-care day is not going to self-care if your phone just keeps dinging with all the emails that you're getting. I think that is the biggest thing that people talk about, is their vacation days never feel like a vacation day because their notifications are still on, or all you can think about is how much work you're missing while you put your face mask on.
Yeah.
You can relax in a massage when all you're thinking about is the work that's piling up and that you have to get to the next day.
Because while you're trying to add to your supports, you're also adding stressors. It's as if nothing got added to the scale at all. You keep the same ratio.
Yeah.
You have, and a lot of people do. Self-care is a balance of minimizing the stressors and reducing them, not adding any more, but adding supports while you are trying to get back to where you want to be.
Self-care is a learned skill.
It's ongoing.
It is an ongoing process and not innate for a lot of people.
Say more about that. I am relatively, like, good at self-care. I know my capacity. I'm self-aware. So I have a hard time knowing what it's like if that's not like how people's brains work.
I think a lot of us operate off an urgency-based system, that whatever is the most urgent or distressing is the thing that we are going to address first. Self-care doesn't feel urgent until you're at the need for coping. If you aren't able to see the long-term benefit of why it's sustainable, or you have a limited awareness of your capacity, or the stress is going on, like what Essence was saying with the scales of support versus stressors, if we don't have a good awareness of where we're at, it's very easy to feel like, I'll get to it, I'll put it off. It's like going to the doctor for your annual physical. You need to go. It is helpful to go and have an understanding of your baseline. And if you're not sick and there's a meeting that you need to go to, or your kid needs to get picked up, or there's a place that you're really excited to go to, it's easy for that thing to be canceled until it's a sick visit. Then it feels urgent. I think self-care is a lot like that. That it gets lost in the background noise of everything else that feels urgent or time dependent.
How do you go from not having an awareness of your capacity to starting to become, like, I know kind of how I do it, but how would you say, if there was somebody that's like, okay, I hear you, I don't know what self-care is, and I want to start being better about that, what is step one?
I think a good first step is writing down on an average day all the things you think you need to get done, or write a task list of everything that you perceive as being on your plate to accomplish. So I think a lot of people underestimate how much they're getting done in a day, or are not aware of all the things that are on their to-do list. I think if people don't understand the amount that they are being asked to accomplish in a day, it's not just like a work-related task, but like a personal-based task. I think capacity comes from not fully understanding what is being asked of us.
This is so interesting because I'm listening to you talk, and the way that we think about this is so different that I'm learning about your brain as you're saying things, because I don't think about self-care and productivity are not in the same like box in my brain at all. Actually, they're not connected. I know what certain things drain out of me, but if I were to think about where my self-care practice fits in, I would have started with what are the things that make you feel the most drained, period. And not what is the world asking of me, which I guess are similar but different. Like, we both talk about self-care, obviously, but we don't talk to each other about it in this way. I heard you say, like, personal versus, can you say more about that?
When we ask people often about, well, what are your responsibilities, they'll default to their work responsibilities.
Or parenting.
But I think a lot of people will talk about, like, the things that are on their plate that they're getting, like, paid to do. We often miss talking about our capacity, the other things required of us that we're not getting paid to do. So things like parenting, being a partner, being a friend. If you ask people what they are asked to complete on an average day, most of my clients would probably not put eating, sleeping, showering the basic human functions get missed as a task required to do that day.
So I think that this is actually a difference in the neurotypical neurodivergent brain in the sense of prioritization. Because my brain does not naturally prioritize information, everything is equally important. And I have to manually prioritize it. So if I were to ask my clients to do that exact same exercise, every single one of them would include everything. And it's because everything is a thing that you have to do. We don't naturally take things off, like, in our heads. But you're, like, automatically filtered. My brain doesn't do that at all.
Well, so I think self-care, either way, can feel overwhelming because my brain works. I would start having to do the mental math of what has to come off in order for this thing to happen. What do I have to be paying more attention to? I tend to operate from a time scarcity perspective, that there isn't enough time to do everything that needs to get done. Like, that is where stress outweighing supports comes from, is that, like, there's not enough time to do it, and now I'm being asked to take something that I already don't have enough time to do off my plate and put self-care on.
So you see it as a task?
Yeah.
Huh.
Like, a task that conceptually I know is going to be beneficial. The long term, especially because of the work that I do, I'm able to see that a little bit further out. Of long term, I know this is going to be better for me if I take the time to do it. And short term still, it is hard to want to take something off to sit and go get an hour massage or sit and go do acupuncture for an hour. Like, that, when in the place that we get acupuncture, they have us sit for half an hour under a heat lamp. And that's something, if I hadn't done it when I was in high school and knew, that would have been very difficult for me to sit for a half hour.
This is so interesting. Like, I'm having so many thoughts. Self-care for me is like fuel. Like, that is the gas to make me do all the other things. If I don't have that, I cannot.
And I think about it as the oil change, that, like, I don't want to go sit at the dealership for 2 hours. I don't want to go sit there for 2 hours. If I don't go get an oil change, my car's going to break down.
So it's more transactional.
Yeah.
Huh. I wonder how that shows up for us then. Differently. How do you think that changes the way that you and I view our capacity? And then we can talk about what we do about that.
I think I tend to view my own capacity as more limited than you view yours.
What do you mean?
I think I operate from that scarcity mindset, and I think that drives most of, for me, because it feels transactional and like something has to go for it to be there, that it becomes more of a, like, intentional. It's like, feels like a disruptive choice, even though I know it's going to be beneficial. That it's not like...
It's like an investment.
It's not how I would choose to spend my free time.
Talking.
Well, I think our self-care also looks different in how you and I think about it. The restorative self-care for me is sometimes just allowing myself to exist without having to do anything, like a task.
Which makes sense because you see it as a task.
Yeah.
So doing nothing would be better than doing something.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't know this unless you were, like, in our house. But this has been, like, a thing in our relationship. I mean, about the same length of time that we've been in a relationship. The year before I met Emily, my grandma died unexpectedly. That is was my person. Like, I was a grandma's person. And so I moved across the country, literally 1,000 miles away from home, alone. Didn't know anybody or anything like that. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have to figure out how to make this work because it's just me. Self-care became really important to me during the pandemic because I couldn't go out and meet people, and I also didn't know anybody. And then when my grandma died, it became even more important. I spent essentially the entirety of that year trying to figure out what I need in order to be the best version of myself. What does that look like, and what do I need to put back in it? And so when I met Emily, I had already kind of done a lot of work on that. And without having this conversation, I didn't really know that we viewed it this differently. I would always say, I've gotten Emily so many different things, and I'm like, oh, try this, try that. And it's always been kind of a thing where she will default to scrolling or to sitting or just existing. And it always annoys me because I'm like, that is not going to make you feel better. Like, it's going to keep you the same, but it's not going to restore anything. Last night, we had a house rave, and Emily broke out the DJ stuff that she got for Christmas, and we sat there laughing and listening to music, and she was making mixes. And for me, that fills my cup. In that moment, it was like, oh my gosh, okay, we're connecting, and I love these songs, and our dog was around, and the vibe, it was just like good vibes. And for me, that is the stuff that goes in to set me up to have a good week. And so even, I guess it is effortful-ish to pull away from what we're normally doing. So I guess that disruptive is a good word. But I think it's not effortful because the exercise itself is net positive.
It's giving more than it's taking.
Yes. When I think about self-care, that is the only criteria. I know that it's going to take effort. Like, it's going to take effort for me to do anything.
Right.
Including sitting there and just existing. And so my metric is, does this give me more than it takes from me? And if so, it's good.
It's interesting.
But yours is like, does it not take? If you're looking at the transaction kind of thing, the least costly option, the free option, would be to stay what you're doing.
Stay relatively neutral.
Huh. What have you noticed about self-care and trying to maintain neutrality versus doing stuff where it does take effort, but it's net positive?
I get more back from being connected to you than I do as an individual.
So you see it as an activity for connection, not like a self-care practice.
Yeah, I think it was fun. Like, it wasn't that I didn't get anything out of it, but
that's not why you did it.
Right.
Yeah, see, I'm like, oh, it's a twofer.
Yeah.
That's how I think about it. It's like, okay, if I can take the thing that is going to sustain me and add connection in there, great. But if not, like, I have to sustain me.
Yeah.
That is how I think about things. Connection is like sprinkles on top of the self-care, but I won't even think about, and all of our friends and everybody would know this, if I feel drained, like, I'm not worried about the connection piece or like the productivity piece or anything. Like, I have to like get back to where I needed to be. I think that's changed since having POTS and chronic illness. I think it's hard to remember how I thought about this before I was sick.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was different, but I don't know how, because I wasn't thinking like that. But I think now, like, I know that I can't, the stupid saying, like, I can't pour from an empty cup is really accurate. I have a capacity, and when it's gone, it's gone. And so I know that even if I'm laying on the couch, it's still taking, maybe not taking the same amount that doing something else would. That's kind of how I think about when we watch TV. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm not internalizing and using energy, but I'm still using energy.
I think that's the difference in your brain and my brain, is that yours is always producing content. And my brain is quiet. I don't have this internal voice. Like, I know I have thoughts that I am thinking, but I don't hear what those are, and I don't have a voice assigned to my internal sense of being. And so when I am sitting and, like, we are watching TV, it is quiet. Like, I don't have things in the background taking up resources.
What about from the TV?
What do you mean?
Drama happens on show. And then you're watching and you're like, oh my gosh. Does your brain not start thinking about things off of what you're seeing?
No. I just keep watching.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, my brain would be like, oh, that's crazy. Oh, I knew somebody that did that. Oh, I wonder what I would say. I wonder what Emily thinks about this. Like, I have, like, everything. Like, it's in the same thing with scrolling. I get really overwhelmed because everything is a jumping off point for new ideas. If I'm sitting there, it's more draining to just do that. Whereas if I'm doing something mindful where I can really only focus on one thing and there's not really room for me to have new ideas, like, I need to color red. That is the only thought. Needs to color red in this box. It sounds like I only get to the state of mind that you are talking about if I am engaged in an activity.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, I am brainstorming constantly.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. So I think that's important. So the prerequisite to self-care is self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how you tick.
It is very difficult to use coping skills effectively if you don't know what emotion you're feeling.
Because what are you coping with?
You can't really engage in self-care effectively until you understand your brain, and your internal experience is essential to self-care.
Knowing, based on how we've talked about things, the way to integrate self-care into your life would be to routine it.
Mm-hmm.
It would have to be a part of the routine where it's not disruptive anymore.
Right.
If that's the biggest barrier, then that's what it is. For me, access is the biggest barrier because I need it to give more than it takes. And if in order to obtain my self-care practice, I have to do 8 million things, then it's taking more than it's giving. And thank God you can't see, but one of the things that is taking over this room right now is all of my craft supplies.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is super regenerating for me. It's so recharging. I love to create. It gives my brain a thing to do, but also lets it kind of do its thing. But if it's hidden away or it's upstairs, then I don't use it as much because it's so effortful to get it. But because we have moved it downstairs to the place that I am actually engaging in it, it's really easy for me to pick up. There is very little barrier,
mm-hmm.
and that means that it's net positive a lot more than actually like taking.
Yeah.
Huh.
Interesting.
Okay, so after you learn your brain, how did you learn your capacity? Or what is your capacity to do stuff?
I think that's when I'm still, like, you have been very helpful in that.
Slay.
She told me she'd break up with me if I didn't learn.
I didn't say it like that. I said this is not going to work very well if you don't figure it out. Which it's not. Well, and it's not for anybody. Like, not just in our relationship, but, like, realistically, like,
yeah.
There's not anything good that's going to come out of people not knowing their own limits.
That is true. It's just funnier when I say it that way.
Yeah, but it makes me sound like a bitch.
I think it's, for me, because I don't have that loud internal monologue and I don't really visualize inside my head that having a skill like the personal battery that we came up with mm-hmm. is helpful to be able to effectively express that to other people. I found that I need something physical that I am able to sit and write on or point to. At one point we had the needs cards printed out.
We still have those.
The emotion wheel have been helpful to externalize what is going on inside my head.
So you need like a structure of like, this is where I'm, like a way to gauge where you're at in a specific point in time.
It's helpful not only for me, but if your brain doesn't work the way my brain works, so we often run into translation issues. So having something that you and I could both use that puts us in the same...
It levels the playing field.
That has been helpful.
Okay.
What about you?
Just having thoughts. I think for me, I'm a feeler, not like a thinker. So I don't think about my capacity as like, I have 7 things on my to-do list and I can only handle 7. So something needs to go if I want to practice self-care. Like that's not how it is. Like moment to moment, like awareness of where I'm at. Mm-hmm. I pay attention to warning signs that things are draining faster than they should. Mm-hmm. When I am doing any given activity, I run through questions. How is this making me feel? How did I start? How did I end? After I did the thing, did I feel better? Did I feel more free? Did I get more clarity? Do I feel more like myself? That tends to be like the big question that I ask is, did that make me feel more like me? And if so, then I add it to the self-care practice. Mm-hmm. So I'm always pursuing feeling more myself. Mm. And if I do something that at the end of it, I feel less connected to myself, I feel less connected to you, I feel less patient or more reactive, more overwhelmed, more tense in my body, or wanting to be isolated or push people away. Mm-hmm. And I know that probably was not good for my capacity because it made me a worse version of myself.
Interesting. I don't know if you and I have talked.
No, we've
self-care.
never talked about this.
Yeah, so it's interesting. Yeah. No, this is just a process that goes on inside your head. So it is not a process that, like, I get the finished product, but I don't get to hear the internal process. So I just think it's interesting how you talk through things.
Yeah, I assumed everybody thought about self-care in context of, like, the self.
I mean, like, that would make sense.
Not being dismissive, but I think when I think self-care, compared to hygiene, for example, hygiene is a thing that you do because we're supposed to, and it keeps you alive. In the hygiene category would be things like showering, brushing your teeth, taking medicine, like, kind of thing. For me, is like, this is just what humans do because we have these bodies. Our dog, where he needs to play, he needs to eat, he needs to sleep, he needs to walk. Like, those things are part of being alive, but it's not a part of who he is. I think that's the part that self-care and hygiene differentiate from me, is that my self-care should bring me back to me. And if it doesn't, coping is something where the way that I conceptualize coping is just like, it doesn't make the situation worse. It's not really about you. It's just about, like, what can I do to hit the brakes and make sure that I don't make this worse, this bad situation, like, progress. But with self-care and self-compassion is also kind of in there. It's like, this should bring me back to me. So when I think about self-care, a lot of people will be like, I went and did this, like, I went on a date, and I'm like, that's not self-care, because the point of going on a date is to connect with other people. You can, like, you know, a byproduct of that could be that you connect with yourself as well, but I think there's a big part of self-care that has to involve knowing or deepening your understanding and your care for self and making you more that. And I think one of the goals that I have subconsciously is I want to know myself 1% more every day. Every day I want to learn something or see something a different way or challenge myself a little bit, because I'm only here for however long I'm here for. There's people in my life that see stuff in me and they want to be around me, and I would like to know what that is. I would like to experience me in the same way.
I think my mindset is that self-care is anything that increases or maintains my capacity. For me, self-care is not a fully individual activity. Self-care for me is like hanging out with you, playing with Monty, watching Survivor with our friends, going out on a date, or going to the beach, or going to get a massage. It doesn't have to be inherently an individual activity or an activity that, like, helps me. I don't know, byproduct is I feel more like me because I'm in spaces where I feel seen and valued and understood. But it is a thing, for me, it's far more about capacity than it is have I explored myself or have I deepened my understanding of me. Yeah.
Things to think about.
I think that's going back to what we originally started talking about. That's where self-care doesn't connect for a lot of people. It's this prescribed thing that HR has decided is a good thing and just gets thrown out as this general concept. And if nobody takes the time to unpack it or understand why self-care is important or how it could be important, then we run into issues where if I went to an employee and said, this is what I do for self-care, you also need to do that, and their brain worked like your brain.
But no, I
exactly.
don't like that.
Or like the thing that we have experienced in our dynamic is you keep bringing me things that would work well for you but don't work well for me.
Not true. But it was a different goal. I bring you things that would help you connect with you in a way, because it's based off of things that I know about you. Like, you should try journaling, or I got you the DJ thing because I know you like music, or I got you this because I know you like that. But that's not how you're thinking about it. You're thinking about it, what is going to maintain my capacity, and those are things that are effortful. If we don't have a agreed upon understanding of the point of self-care in a workplace, in our households, and things like that, then you're going to experience resistance, because it feels like something is being forced on. It's like wearing shoes that aren't yours.
You're being prescribed somebody else's plan.
Yeah, this is supposed to fit you. But I think after we finish recording this, and probably for the next week or so, this will spark other conversations that you and I will have about how we can better show up for each other, how we can recognize or think about it differently, because we are actually talking about two completely different concepts under the same name, which is telling of how things, like, I mean, there's two of us. If you think about, like, an organization that has, like, 100, 150 employees, that is 150 different experiences that you're trying to, like, message this to word term and say, like, this is the key to fixing everything. And that is oversimplifying a lot.
Word. What are the top 3 self-care things that are in your current rotation?
Well, that makes it hard because what am I missing? Like, again, with the way that I think about it, is self-care is supposed to get me back to me. And so it depends what got me off. So, like, in a scenario where my body is really tired, if my body is tired or it is drained and I need to get back to where I need to be, then that involves a lot of rest. I'm going to take naps. I'm going to use the foam roller. I'm going to use the massage thing. I'm going to do stretches. I'm going to drink water. I'm going to have tea. All sensory kinds of things to try and bring soothing to my body and, like, recharge that. But it's focused on, if I'm lacking in body, I'm rebuilding in body. If it's like my mind, like my brain is all scrambled and like chaotic, then that's usually where I will do a brain dump. And that is to, like, clarify, okay, like, what are we even doing here? Sometimes I'll talk to you. Sometimes I will go back. A lot of times I'll go back to, like, my values or the goals of a specific task. Or I'll break out some of the tools for ADHD that help get me back on track. Because if it's my mind, then that's what it needs. If it's my emotions, then it depends on the emotion. I have specific things for each feeling, because I know if I feel anger, then, like, it's because a boundary has been crossed. What's the boundary that I was, like, it breaks down very strategically. And then if it's, like, spiritual, this is one that we both have built into our routine. I don't know if we'll ever really fully talk about faith or religion in this avenue, but I think that both of us grew up within the Christian faith and had our own experiences with that. We found a church that we love where a lot of our friends go, and I think that being in an environment where there's music really lifts me and connects me to other people. It's called collective effervescence, like an experience. I learned that term. It's like when you're in a space and, like, the vibes sync up almost, where everybody's in a space and we're all doing the same thing. We were at the Rays game this weekend, and everybody was standing and singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game," and I was like, yes, like, I just feel connected to people and connected to a greater purpose than my mundane life.
You love a shared experience.
I do, and I think it's because it reminds me that I'm a part of something, that other people who are different from me are also connected to me through this moment. I think that's dope. I think that if I'm feeling disconnected from me and other people are hopeless about the state of the world, then I know that I need experiences like that. That's where I think my self-care tends to overlap with, like, connection in the times that I'm feeling disconnected from others. But if I'm burnt out and feeling compassion fatigue and overwhelmed by people, being around more people does not do the thing that I need it to.
Makes sense.
What about you?
I think the acupuncture has been really helpful because it forces me to sit still for a period of time. And I think it's a great opportunity to deep breathe and take the time. You have to pay attention to your body and you have to be still because obviously you have a bunch of needles in you. So I think that has been really helpful with helping me pay more attention to my body and sit. At bare minimum, it's a great nap.
I haven't taken a nap still, but I'm glad you have.
Yeah. I think spending time with you is incredibly helpful. Those moments of connection, whether, like, we're watching TV or we go out to dinner or, you know, we have been antiquing a lot. Anything that helps me feel, like, more connected and, like, grounded into you is wonderful. I think, like, baking helps a lot. But I like baking more as, like, a shared experience. So, like, that's a moment of, like, connection, like, with my side of our family, with you. That tends to be, again, like, I get to be around, like, my people is always really helpful.
What is one thing that you will be thinking about from this, like, from this conversation? Because I think that's another thing that we want to model. And it's kind of hard, honestly, to get on here. We kind of started out a little rocky with, like, the tech issues and also just feeling on a time crunch and, you know, whatever. I want to model the messy in a way that helps people feel comfortable to talk about it in their own lives and say, like, okay, yes, you got to see that, like, we're gonna cut out a lot of the chaos, but, like, you'll see, like, we're a little scattered and, like, it took a little bit to, like, get there, but I think that there's, like, safety in the process that I think we should want people to be able to see also. But we also know that after doing this podcast, this isn't just like, okay, well, check the box. Like, we talked about it, now it's done. Mm-hmm. So I want to model what we do after we have these ahas in our conversations to make us better people.
I think I can be more mindful of when you bring something to me for self-care or you bring up an idea, being more open to letting it take up some time, knowing that the potential benefit is there, even if I can't see it, like you see the benefit of it. So being more open-minded.
I think for me, I want to be more mindful of the fact that, like, spontaneity is maybe more draining for you. But if we build in kind of, like, structure that's, like, flexible, then that would maybe help both of us meet our needs for self-care. Yep. And also recognizing that, like, what it looks like for each of us is different, and being willing to, like, try and change how we experience those moments as well. So the report, let's try and make this quick because those have been, like, dragging on.
So if you haven't listened before, our report is what we're reading, eating, playing, obsessing, recommending, treating.
Okay, so this week, reading.
The news, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
Yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
Okay, I finished a book yesterday called Just Another Missing Person. So I have read 10 books this year.
Killed it.
My goal is 30, and I am on track.
Slay. Eating.
Oh, I know.
Okay, go ahead.
We found this place in Bradenton called The Spot Tacos.
So good.
We ordered from them on Friday. Their tacos, we've gone twice within 2 weeks. Like,
excellent.
It is really good. And they're on DoorDash if you're in Sarasota.
I'll also shout out a local brand, Jack's Donuts.
Yeah.
We had some Jack's Donuts this weekend. Excellent.
Yeah. And our Jack's is connected to Antonio's Pizza, which is also really good.
Very good pizza.
Yeah.
Playing. What are we playing? I played my DJ equipment.
Slay.
We had a nice little rave.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
I'm playing with home improvement. So I have painted a bunch of furniture that we had just to feel more like us. And then yesterday I painted our fireplace, which I've been wanting to paint since we bought this house. And I'm so happy about how it turned out. So that's what we're playing.
Obsessing.
I'm obsessing over the work that I did on this fireplace. It's so pretty. I love it.
I am obsessing over my wife's work ethic.
You could say more about that.
Is that what you're keeping it short? No, I think you have an incredible vision when it comes to how to make our house feel more like us. And you work really hard to make it feel like more like us.
It's important to me.
Yeah.
Now you can Eva.
I love you.
I love you too. Okay.
Recommending. Acupuncture.
Yeah.
It's been really good. If you struggle with mind-body connection, I think that is helping mine, at least.
Huh.
So that might help yours.
Yeah. I like acupuncture. I've been doing the chiropractor. I did cupping for the first time today. I wasn't really sure about it, but, you know, I'm open to whatever. That was the first time that I actually felt like some of my muscles release. So, would recommend.
Yeah.
Treating. Well, you heard all the treats we've been treating ourselves to because HelloFresh has been mid. So we typically get HelloFresh. Honestly, how do we get a HelloFresh sponsorship? Because I feel like we talk about HelloFresh all the time.
Yeah, but you just dissed them.
Yeah, but I gave them feedback on the app, so it's not new news to them. We've been treating ourselves a lot out and about.
Yeah. We went to a Rays game this weekend, and I got to treat myself to some popcorn from a helmet, which was fun. Let's see.
I feel like we're lacking in the treating area, which maybe we need to treat ourselves. I guess last night we treated ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we had fun.
Treat yourself to an experience.
Yeah, like I think we've had a lot of experiences lately.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a thing that we try to put some focus on this week.
You never know.
We treated ourselves with DoorDash, but not a lot of like other experiences.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
If you stayed through the episode,
Thanks.
Thank you. This was supposed to be a short one.
Yeah, the goal was like 20 minutes, and the recording right now is at 79, so...
We'll see what we get it down to in editing.
Stay tuned. But thanks for watching. And
thanks for talking shop with us.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
Bye.